Hey guys, I'm Nisa Homey. Today I'm sharing a healthy last minute Christmas fruit cake recipe, also known as boiled fruit cake. No maida, no refined sugar and no oven. A super healthy fruit cake recipe perfect for Christmas. So let's quickly dive into the recipe. To make a last minute Christmas cake, also known as boil and bake Christmas cake, I have a whole nutmeg. I've added into my stone grinder. Into that I'm adding in half teaspoon cloves, once chopped, keep it aside. Add the dry fruits into a saucepan. Add in 1 cup crushed jaggery powder. I'm using organic jaggery powder. Add in 1 cup water. Turn on the flame and bring this to a boil. Give it a stir. Once it boils, reduce the flame to the lowest and let it simmer on low flame for about 5 minutes. In between, give it a stir. The jaggery will now start to melt. After 5 minutes, turn off the flame and allow this to cool down. While the jaggery mix is cooling down, let's get the other ingredients ready. Into a bowl, I am adding in 2 eggs. Adding in half cup wood pressed coconut oil. Wood pressed coconut oil and virgin coconut oil has a very neutral flavor and taste. Hence it is ideal for baking. With a whisk, I am mixing this. Once it is mixed, it will become creamy. Add the egg mix into the cooled jaggery mix and lightly mix this. Add in 1.5 cups kapli wheat flour. If you don't have kapli wheat at hand, you can use ordinary whole wheat flour instead. Into this I am adding in the ground spices, half teaspoon pink Himalayan salt or as needed, 1 teaspoon dry ginger powder which is also known as chukku podi in Malayalam, 1 teaspoon organic cinnamon powder, 1 teaspoon baking powder. And with a spatula, lightly mix the flours first and then incorporate it into the wet ingredients. Once mixed, the batter will be thick and creamy. I have already prepared a cake tin and I have greased it and lined it with parchment paper. Transfer the batter into the prepared cake tin. Once transferred, level the top with the spatula. Tap it a couple of times on the countertop to release air bubbles if there are any. I'm going to show you how to bake this without an oven, but if you're making it in an oven, bake it in the preheated oven at 180 degrees Celsius for about 55 to 60 minutes or until a toothpick inserted in the center comes out clean. To bake on the stovetop, I'm using a heavy bottomed deep cast iron dish like this. You can use a kadai instead, but make sure it is heavy bottomed. So once the pan is heated, I'm placing a lid in the center of the pan. Note that the lid is slightly raised in the center. So I'm placing it in the middle. Place the cake pan on top of the lid. The lid will actually prevent direct heat from hitting onto the cake tin so that the bottom layer will not get burnt. Cover it with a tight lid. Put the flame on low and let it bake on low flame for about 55 to 60 minutes or until a toothpick inserted in the center comes out clean. After 60 minutes, open the lid and you can see that the cake has risen well. So I'm going to insert a toothpick in the center and the toothpick comes out clean. So the cake is nicely done. So I'm going to turn off the flame and remove the cake from the pan and allow it to cool down completely. Fruit cakes should be ideally rested for a day or at least 5 to 6 hours. So I'm going to allow it to cool down and then I'll remove it from the cake tin and allow it to cool completely, and then I'll slice and show you. And once it has cooled down, run a knife through the sides and carefully remove it from the pan. Let me just slice and show you how the cake looks. The cake is soft and moist. So guys, do try this Christmas fruit cake recipe and let me know how it turned out. Today I'm sharing a super healthy homemade chocolate chip cookies. For some extra healthy fats and protein, I'm using salted and roasted peanuts. I have measured 3/4 cup of salted and roasted peanuts and I'm roughly chopping them up. The addition of peanuts is entirely optional and you can also opt for any other nut of your choice instead of peanuts. Once the peanuts are roughly chopped, I'm keeping it aside. Into a large bowl, I'm adding in 1 cup tightly packed brown sugar, half cup kandasari sugar, 3/4 cup virgin coconut oil, 1 teaspoon vanilla essence, and I'm giving this all a mix. Add in 2 eggs and then mix it really well until it is creamy and thick and is lighter in color. Add in 2 cups of kapli wheat flour, also known as emmer wheat. Add in half teaspoon baking soda and lightly mix this with a spoon. Add in the roughly chopped peanuts and mix it again. Add in 1 cup dark chocolate chips and mix it lightly into the wheat flour. This actually will prevent the nuts and chocolate chips from sinking down while baking. Add in half teaspoon pink Himalayan salt and mix all this up with a spoon. At this moment, I am preheating my oven to 180 degrees Celsius. To measure and scoop the cookie dough, I am using my ice cream scoop and I am greasing the insides and outsides of the ice cream scoop with coconut oil. And then take a scoop of the cookie dough and place it on the baking tray lined with baking mat, or you can use a parchment paper. Using the ice cream scoop to measure the cookie dough will also make sure that you get equally sized cookies. However, you can also use a tablespoon to measure the cookie dough. Press down 1 teaspoon chocolate chips on top of each cookie. Remember that cookies will spread out when it is baked, so the chocolate chips will spread out nicely on top of the cookie. Lastly, lightly flatten each cookie and press down the chocolate chips with your finger. Bake it in the preheated oven for about 14 to 15 minutes. Always remember that oven temperature varies with oven. So please keep an eye on the cookies after about 10 to 12 minutes. Repeat the same with the rest of the dough. And once baked, allow it to cool down lightly on the pan and then remove it from the pan to cool down completely. And my super healthy bakery style healthy chocolate chip cookies are ready to serve. Store it in an airtight glass container and enjoy with family and friends. Today I am sharing eggless and alcohol-free fruit cake, also known as Kerala plum cake, made without maida or refined sugar. A super healthy Christmas fruit cake recipe. So without wasting much time, let's get started with the recipe. Into a bowl, I am adding in 3/4 cup freshly squeezed orange juice. Into this, I am adding in a handful or 3 tablespoons chopped golden raisins, a handful or 3 tablespoons chopped black raisins, 5 dates chopped, 3 tablespoons chopped cashew nuts. Give this all a mix. Soak this overnight or for at least a minimum of 2 hours. So I'm going to cover and soak it overnight. And the next day morning, this is how it looks. You can see that the dry fruits has almost soaked the orange juice. So I'm just giving it a mix, and let's get the other ingredients ready. Into a saucepan, I'm adding in 3/4 cup jaggery powder. This is organic jaggery, which does not have any sand or dust particle. So I'm adding it directly into the saucepan. Into this, add in 1/4 cup water. Give it a stir, and on low flame, melt the jaggery. And once the jaggery is melted, turn off the flame. Into my small stone grinder, I'm adding in 3 cardamoms, and I'm just crushing them. Once crushed, peel off the skin and add the seeds into the stone grinder. Add in 1/4 inch of cinnamon. I have broken it into smaller pieces. A small piece of nutmeg. 4 cloves. And I'm crushing and grinding all this to a fine powder. Once ground, keep it aside. Into this, add in 1/4 cup wood pressed coconut oil. Adding in 1 cup of kapli wheat flour, also known as emmer wheat. Kapli wheat or emmer wheat is an ancient variety of wheat grain which has a very weak gluten molecule, and it has more fiber. Hence, I prefer to use them more in my recipes. However, if you don't have kapli wheat at hand, you can use ordinary whole wheat flour instead. Add in 1/3 teaspoon baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon baking powder, 1/4 teaspoon pink Himalayan salt. Add in the ground spices. And with a spatula, just slightly mix this really well. Mix and fold the flour into the wet ingredients. Add in the soaked dry fruits along with the orange juice. Give it a nice mix. Once nicely mixed, the batter should be thick, creamy and of pourable consistency. So this is the consistency of the batter. The batter should be creamy and thick. I have already lined an 8-inch square cake tin with parchment paper. Transfer the cake batter into the pan. Level the top with a spatula, placing some cashew nuts in the center. And lightly press down the cashew nuts. Bake in the preheated oven at 180 degrees Celsius for about 55 to 60 minutes. To bake the cake without an oven, use a kadai or a deep cast iron pan. Place a lid in the center and then place the cake pan on top and cover it with the lid and bake for 55 to 60 minutes on low flame. And after 55 minutes, the cake is out of the oven and it's nicely baked. So I'm just inserting a toothpick in the center and it comes out clean. I'm going to allow the cake to cool down completely, and once it has cooled down, run a knife through the sides and gently pull out the cake using the sides of the parchment paper. Remove the parchment paper, and my eggless plum cake or Kerala fruit cake is ready to serve. See how beautifully the cake has come out. It is soft and spongy. The cake is perfectly cooked, so healthy and tasty. Healthy skillet cookie recipe made without maida, butter or refined sugar. Super healthy and tasty skillet cookies. So let's quickly dive into the recipe. To make skillet cookies, I am using a 10-inch cast iron pan. Instead of the cast iron skillet, you can also use a baking tray like this, lined with parchment paper. Into the skillet, I'm adding in a few drops of wood pressed coconut oil and I'm greasing the skillet. Make sure you grease the sides as well. So a lot of you are confused with the wood pressed oil. Wood pressed oil and cold pressed oils are the same. Another thing is wood pressed oils and virgin coconut oil has a very neutral flavor and taste. Hence it is ideal for baking. I'm chopping 2 handfuls of cashew nuts. With my knife I'm just roughly chopping the cashew nuts. Instead of cashew nuts you can use any nut of your choice like peanuts, almonds, pistachios, walnuts, any nut which is available at hand. And once chopped, keep it aside. Next, I am chopping 150 grams of dark chocolate. Instead of this, you can use 1 cup of dark chocolate chips. So I am just roughly chopping the dark chocolate and then chop into small pieces. And once the dark chocolate is roughly chopped, keep it aside. Into a large bowl, I am adding in 1 cup of wood pressed coconut oil. Into this, I am adding in 2 whole eggs. Add in 1 teaspoon vanilla essence. And with a handheld beater, I am mixing this up. And once it is creamy and pale, I am adding in 1.5 cups of jaggery powder. So what I've done is I just crushed organic jaggery and added into my measuring cup. I'm adding in 1.5 cups of crushed jaggery. I'm going to blend this again. And once blended, the jaggery is nicely mixed and incorporated into the batter. At this moment, I am preheating my oven to 180 degrees Celsius. Into this, I am adding in 3 cups of kapli wheat flour. Kapli wheat is also known as emmer wheat. 2 fat pinches of pink Himalayan salt. Half teaspoon baking soda. When you're using baking soda, make sure you use good quality baking soda. And with a spatula, I am mixing this up. That is, I'm just mixing the flours and then I'll be incorporating it into the batter. And then I'm just mixing it into the batter. Add in the nuts. I'm keeping aside some dark chocolate to sprinkle on top. And with the spatula, just mix this all up. This is one of the easiest chocolate chip cookie recipe. So once everything is nicely mixed, I'm going to transfer it to my skillet. And then spread the batter evenly. Sprinkle the remaining chopped dark chocolate over the batter. And bake in the preheated oven at 180 degrees Celsius for about 35 to 40 minutes. Remember that oven temperature varies with oven. So please do keep an eye on it after 30 minutes. And after 45 minutes, the skillet cookie is nicely baked and is out of the oven. You can see that the sides has slightly browned and the center is slightly soft to touch. And that is the right time to remove it from the oven. I'm going to allow it to cool down and then I'll slice and show you how it looks. You can enjoy skillet cookies with a drizzle of chocolate sauce or with a scoop of ice cream. I'll just slice and show you how it looks. I just wanted to show you the texture of the skillet cookies. So this is how it looks after 3 days, and it is not very crispy like normal chocolate chip cookies. It is somewhat in between like a cake and a rusk. So there is a bakery item here in Kerala known as cake rusk. This skillet cookie has the texture of a cake rusk, and the best thing is it keeps good for about 2 weeks and it's easy to make as well. So guys, do try these skillet cookies and let me know how it is. Today I'm sharing a healthy carrot cake recipe made without maida or refined sugar. Super healthy carrot cake perfect to be enjoyed by the whole family. So let's get started with the recipe. To make carrot cake, into a bowl I'm adding in 1 cup of jaggery powder. You can also use grated jaggery instead of jaggery powder. Other options are liquid jaggery, also known as kakwi, coconut sugar or maple syrup. Into this I'm adding in 3 free range eggs. With a whisk I'm mixing the eggs and the jaggery. Once the jaggery and eggs are mixed, add in 3/4 cup wood pressed coconut oil. Wood pressed coconut oil has a very neutral flavor and taste, hence they are ideal to use in baking. However, if you don't have wood pressed coconut oil at hand, you can use grass-fed cow's melted butter instead. With the whisk, I'm again mixing this. As you mix, you can see the batter getting into a thick and creamy consistency. Add in 1/2 teaspoon vanilla extract and mix again. As you can see, it has become a thick and creamy batter. Add in 1 cup couply wheat flour. Now instead of couply wheat flour, you can use ordinary whole wheat flour. I prefer to use couply wheat in my recipes because they are an ancient variety of wheat grain which has a very weak gluten molecule. They are also rich in fiber. So into this I am adding in 1 cup of couply wheat flour. Couply wheat is also known as emmer wheat or samba wheat. 1/4 teaspoon pink Himalayan salt or as needed. 1 teaspoon baking powder. 1/2 teaspoon dry ginger powder, 1/2 teaspoon freshly ground nutmeg powder. I took about 1/3 portion of the nutmeg and ground it in the stone grinder. 1/2 teaspoon freshly ground cinnamon powder. With a spatula, I am lightly mixing the dry ingredients. Once the dry ingredients are mixed, I am adding in 1 cup grated carrot, and with a spatula I am mixing all this into a thick batter consistency. This is the consistency of the batter we should be looking at: thick, creamy and of pourable consistency. To bake the cake, I am using a round glass cake pan. Into it I am adding in a splash of wood pressed coconut oil, and I am greasing the pan with the wood pressed coconut oil. Make sure you grease the sides as well. Place a parchment paper in the center, and now my cake pan is perfectly lined and ready to bake. At this moment I have preheated my oven to 180 degrees Celsius. Pour the thick and creamy cake batter into the pan. Level the top with the spatula. Bake in the preheated oven at 180 degrees Celsius for about 35 to 40 minutes or until a toothpick inserted in the center comes out clean. Remember that oven temperature varies with oven, so please keep an eye on it after about 30 minutes. And once the cake has baked really well, I'm going to allow it to cool down in the pan slightly, and then I'll transfer to a wire rack. So guys, do try this healthy carrot cake recipe and let me know how it turned out. Thank you. Almond flour cookie recipe. No wheat flour, no maida, no refined sugar. A super healthy, gluten-free and dairy-free chocolate chip cookie recipe which can be enjoyed by the whole family. So let's get started with the recipe. Into a bowl, I'm adding in 1/4 cup wood-pressed coconut oil. Instead of wood-pressed coconut oil, you can also use grass-fed melted butter. 1/2 cup kandasari sugar. Instead of kandasari sugar, you can use coconut sugar, jaggery or even palm jaggery. 1 teaspoon vanilla extract. Instead of vanilla extract, you can also use almond extract. Add in 1 egg, 1/4 teaspoon pink Himalayan salt, and give this all a good mix. Add in 2 cups almond flour, half teaspoon baking soda. Lightly mix the baking soda into the almond flour and then mix everything really well. At this moment, I'm preheating my oven to 180 degrees Celsius. Half cup chocolate chips. Try to use good quality chocolate chips. I will leave buying links of the chocolate chips I'm using in the description box below. And incorporate the chocolate chips into the dough. I have lined my baking tray with the parchment paper, and with an ice cream scoop I'm just scooping out the cookie dough and placing it on the parchment paper. Make sure you leave some gap between the cookies. I like to flatten the cookies a little just before baking. Now I'm making slightly larger cookies. If you prefer, you can make smaller cookies. Some extra chocolate chips on top. And I'm going to bake in my preheated oven at 180 degrees Celsius for about 12 to 15 minutes or until the cookies are done. Remember that oven temperature varies with ovens, so please keep an eye on it after about 10 minutes. You can see that the color has changed on the sides and it has become a little crisp on the sides, but on the center it is still a little soft. So I'm going to allow it to cool down on the pan itself for another 10 minutes. So guys, do try this healthy almond flour chocolate chip cookies and let me know in the comments how it turned out. Thank you for watching, and until next time, take care. Bye bye.